The HSS Aegis hung in the void like a titanium arrowhead, its dark hull absorbing starlight rather than reflecting it. At 3 kilometers long, humanity's most advanced warship represented everything they'd learned about survival among the stars. Captain Elena Santos stood at the bridge's center, her weathered hands resting on the tactical display as she studied the sensor readings from the Epsilon Eridani colony. Multiple unknown contacts dropping out of FTL. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. They're on an intercept course with the colony. Santos' expression remained neutral, but her dark eyes hardened. The Epsilon Eridani colony housed over 2 million civilians. After decades of peaceful expansion, humanity had grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. But they hadn't grown careless. The HSS Aegis was proof of that. Battle stations, Santos ordered, her voice carrying the weight of 20 years in the Earth Space Force. Bring all defensive systems online. Deploy armor plates. Spin up all 3 reactor cores. The bridge crew responded with practiced efficiency. The Aegis's outer hull split and shifted, layers of advanced composite armor extending outward like the scales of a terrestrial dragon. What had appeared to be a sleek warship now bristled with defensive plating and point defense turrets. Unknown vessels are broadcasting, Communications Officer Chen announced. Universal translators are processing. Audio coming through. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. Primitive species, you have expanded beyond your designated boundaries. Your colony will be cleansed. Resistance will only prolong your extinction. We are the Vorkath, and our technology is beyond your comprehension. Santos allowed herself a small smile. If there was one thing humans had learned since reaching the stars, it was that beyond comprehension usually meant we haven't tried to understand it yet. Vorkath vessels, this is Captain Elena Santos of the HSS Aegis. The Epsilon Eridani colony is under Earth protection. Your threats are noted, but unnecessary. We prefer dialogue to violence. The response came in the form of energy weapons fire. Brilliant purple beams that lanced out from the alien ships toward the colony. Before they could reach their target, the Aegis moved. Despite its size, the warship accelerated with shocking speed, interposing itself between the attackers and the colony. The purple beams struck the Aegis's outer armor. Instead of penetrating, the energy dispersed across the ship's hull, absorbed by layers of metamaterials specifically designed to handle unknown weapons. The bridge crew watched their displays as the armor's effectiveness was calculated in real time, adaptive systems already beginning to optimize for this new threat. Armor holding at 97%, reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen from the engineering station. Energy dispersion systems are adapting. Secondary and tertiary power grids are stable. No penetration detected. The alien transmission returned, this time with unmistakable confusion in its clicking tones. Impossible. Your primitive vessel should have been vaporized. What manner of deception is this? Santos straightened her uniform, a habit from her academy days. No deception, Vorkath command. Humanity learned long ago that space is unforgiving. We build our ships accordingly. Every system has backups. Every piece of armor is designed to adapt. We survive. That's what we do best. Your species is young, the Vorkath commander replied. You cannot have developed defenses against weapons you've never encountered. We developed defenses against everything we could imagine, Santos corrected, and then we developed defenses against things we couldn't imagine. Your weapons are impressive, but not beyond our capacity to defend against. I repeat, we prefer dialogue to violence. Stand down, and let's discuss this like civilized species. The Vorkath ships began to move, spreading out in an attack formation. Their hulls shifted, revealing more weapon ports. Santos nodded to herself. They would have to learn the hard way. All hands, she broadcast shipwide, prepare for active defense protocols. Remember your training. Remember why we build our ships the way we do. Every system, every backup, Every redundancy exists for this moment. Let's show our visitors why humanity's still here after everything space has thrown at us. The Vorkath attack began in earnest, a coordinated assault of energy weapons, graviton beams, and what appeared to be some form of quantum disruption field. The Aegis's sensors cataloged each attack, its defensive systems adapting in real time. Layers of armor absorbed, deflected, and redistributed energy. Point defense systems tracked and intercepted incoming projectiles. The quantum disruption field simply washed over specially hardened systems designed to maintain integrity under far worse conditions. Return fire, Santos ordered calmly. Concentrated burst from forward batteries. Minimal power. Let's show them what primitive humans can do. The Aegis's main weapons powered up, not the elegant energy weapons of the Vorkath, but solid human engineering at its finest. Hypervelocity kinetic rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds, tore through space, their trajectories calculated with precision by quantum computers. The Vorkath ships, designed to defend against energy weapons and exotic particles, found their shields useless against the simple physics of extremely fast-moving objects. One alien vessel's shields collapsed, its hull buckling under the impact. The others began to retreat, their formation breaking apart. "They're broadcasting again," Chen reported. "Your species," the Vorkath commander's voice had lost its arrogance. "Your vessel's construction. It defies logic. No species builds with such redundancy, such waste of resources." "Not waste," Santos replied. "Experience. Every backup system, every layer of armor, every redundant power core exists because we learned their necessity the hard way. We built the Aegis not just to fight, but to survive. That's the difference between our species, Commander. You built your ships to demonstrate your technological superiority. We built ours to ensure humanity's survival, no matter what the universe throws at us." A long silence followed. When the Vorkath commander spoke again, their tone had changed entirely. Perhaps there is wisdom in your approach that we had not considered. Our databases suggest your species only achieved faster than light travel 3 centuries ago. Yet your defensive capabilities, they exceed our predictions by orders of magnitude. That's because you predicted based on technological advancement, Santos explained. You didn't account for survival drive. Humanity reached the stars and found them hostile. Rather than retreat, we adapted. Every failed colony taught us. Every lost ship made us stronger. We built the Aegis not to wage war, but to ensure nothing could prevent us from exploring, expanding, surviving. "We have much to discuss," Captain Santos, the Vorkath commander, conceded. "Our initial assessment of your species requires significant revision." Santos smiled. First contact situations were always delicate, but humanity had learned to handle those too. Sometimes it took a demonstration of strength to open the door to genuine dialogue. The Aegis had just proved its worth not only as a warship but as a symbol of humanity's approach to the challenges of space. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and always have a backup plan. "I look forward to our discussion, Commander," she replied. "Shall we begin?" The aftermath of the initial confrontation left both species reassessing their assumptions. While Captain Santos and the Vorkath commander established diplomatic channels, the Aegis's crew remained vigilant. 3 days into their cautious dialogue, fate proved their caution warranted. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Lieutenant Commander Jackson's voice cut through the bridge's quiet efficiency. Much larger than the previous Vorkath fleet. Energy readings are off the charts. Santos straightened in her command chair. The tactical display showed 15 Vorkath dreadnoughts emerging from FTL, each one dwarfing the vessels from the previous encounter. Their organic-looking hulls pulsed with barely contained energy. "Captain," the familiar clicking voice of the first Vorkath commander came through, urgent now. "These are the purifiers, hardliners within our species. They believe any civilization that might one day rival us must be eliminated. I tried to prevent this, but—" "We understand, Commander," Santos interrupted. "You're not responsible for your entire species' actions, Neither are we backing down. She switched to ship-wide comm. All hands, this is what we built for. Every drill, every redundancy, every backup. Today they all matter. The Purifier fleet didn't bother with warnings. Their opening salvo carried enough energy to vaporize a small moon. The Aegis's sensors registered weapons they'd never encountered. Dimensional shears, chronometric torpedoes, gravity lances. But humanity had learned to prepare for the unknown. The Aegis's outer armor transformed, individual plates shifting and realigning. What looked like chaos was actually the ship's adaptive defense system at work, each plate adjusting its composition and angle based on real-time analysis of the incoming threats. Dimensional shears deflected, Lieutenant Chen reported, her voice steady. Chronometric torpedoes contained by temporal stabilization fields. Gravity lances, redistributing structural load. Hull integrity at 92% and holding. The Purifier ships paused their assault, clearly unprepared for their apocalyptic arsenal to be so thoroughly countered. Santos used that moment of confusion to demonstrate humanity's own capabilities. Execute maneuver pattern Delta 7, she ordered. All power to forward shields and kinetic delivery systems. The Aegis moved like no ship its size should, thrust vectoring and inertial dampeners pushing the limits of physics. The massive vessel corkscrewed through space, presenting constantly changing angles to the enemy while its main gun spoke. Relativistic projectiles crossed the void, their simple kinetic energy enhanced by electromagnetic fields. The Purifier's advanced shields, calibrated for exotic energy weapons, struggled against such primitive yet devastating attacks. Their shields are adapting, Jackson warned. They're analyzing our attack patterns. Santos smiled. Good. Execute Protocol Omega. Show them why we build our ships with triple redundancy. Throughout the Aegis, backup systems came online. Not just secondary systems, but tertiary and quaternary backups. Power rerouted through multiple redundant pathways. The ship's energy signature became a constantly shifting puzzle, impossible to target effectively. Impossible. The Purifier commander's first transmission was filled with genuine shock. Your vessel's power signature. It makes no sense. No system can function with such chaos. That's where you're wrong, Santos replied calmly. We built our ships knowing that perfection is impossible. Instead of trying to create the perfect system, we embraced imperfection. Every backup, every redundancy, every seemingly chaotic power signature represents a lesson learned in blood. The battle continued, but its nature had changed. The Purifier fleet's coordinated attacks became increasingly desperate as they faced an enemy that simply refused to follow the rules of conventional space warfare. Where their weapons should have torn through hull plating, they found layers of redundant armor. When they tried to overload power systems, they discovered multiple independent grids that redistributed the load. Their formation is breaking, Jackson reported. They're falling back. The original Vorkath commander's voice returned. Captain Santos, I have never. In all our history, no species has survived a full Purifier assault. Their weapons are designed to bypass any known defense. That was your mistake, Santos replied. You designed defenses for known threats. We designed ours for the unknown. Humanity learned early that space holds more surprises than we could ever predict. So we stopped trying to predict. Instead, we prepared. The Purifier fleet retreated, their perfect formation shattered. Their unstoppable weapons proved stoppable. But Santos knew this wasn't over. It was just the beginning of a longer conversation, one about survival, adaptation, and the different paths species could take to the stars. Send to Earth Command, she ordered. First contact situation evolved. Request diplomatic cork deployment. And tell them humanity's approach to shipbuilding has been vindicated. Sometimes the paranoid survive. As the Aegis maintained its vigilant watch over the colony, its crew reflected on the irony. Their ship, built to survive humanity's worst fears, had just proved its worth against an enemy they'd never imagined. The over-engineering, the redundancies, the backup systems that other human critics had once called paranoid. They had all served their purpose. The stars watched silently as two civilizations began to learn from each other, each bringing their own lessons about survival in an unforgiving universe. The diplomatic exchange between humans and Vorkath had progressed for 2 weeks when the universe decided to remind everyone why humanity's paranoid engineering made sense. It started with a subtle vibration through the Aegis' hull, something that shouldn't have been possible given their inertial dampening systems. Signal from the Vorkath flagship, Lieutenant Chen announced. They're detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the sector, nothing like they've ever recorded. Before Santos could respond, space itself seemed to shudder. The void between stars rippled like disturbed water, and every instrument on the Aegis screamed warnings. The tactical display showed impossible readings. Reality itself was becoming unstable. All hands, emergency stations, Santos ordered. Full power to structural integrity fields. Deploy all backup systems. The Vorkath ships, for all their advanced technology, began to show signs of stress. Their organic-looking hulls writhed as if in pain, their elegant energy signatures fluctuating wildly. Captain, the Vorkath commander's voice came through, strained. This phenomenon, it's affecting our quantum-based systems. Our ships rely on stable space-time for basic functions. We must retreat or risk total system failure. Santos studied her tactical display. The Vorkath ships were already beginning to withdraw, their sophisticated technology proving a liability in this inexplicable disturbance. But the Epsilon Eridani colony lay directly in the phenomenon's path. Engineering, give me options, Santos demanded. Chief Engineer Patel's voice came back instantly. Captain, we're reading massive space-time distortions, but our redundant systems are holding. The Aegis was built to maintain integrity, even if reality itself tries to tear us apart. We can't stop this phenomenon, but we might be able to shield the colony. Explain. Our hull plating isn't just armor. It's a sophisticated metamaterial matrix. If we reconfigure it to resonate at the right frequency, we could create a bubble of stable space-time. We'd need every bit of power we have. And then some. Santos didn't hesitate. Do it. Divert all power to the hull matrix. Spin up every reactor we have, including the experimental fusion core. Captain, the Vorkath commander interjected. Your ship cannot withstand these forces. Even our most advanced calculations suggest. Your calculations don't account for human stubbornness, Commander, Santos interrupted. We built this ship not just to survive, but to protect. Today we find out if we built it well enough. The Aegis' hull began to glow as unprecedented amounts of power coursed through its metamaterial plating. The ship positioned itself between the colony and the approaching distortion, its massive frame serving as a breakwater against a tide of unstable space-time. Hull stress reaching critical levels, Jackson reported. Primary power grid at 130% capacity. Secondary grid engaging. Tertiary grid online. The experimental core is holding steady. The view outside the bridge windows defied description. Space itself seemed to bend and twist, stars appearing to move in impossible ways. But within the bubble created by the Aegis resonating hull, reality remained stable. Fascinating. The Vorkath commander's voice held genuine awe. Your ship's primitive materials and redundant systems, they're actually stabilizing local spacetime. You're creating order from chaos using brute force and backup systems. Santos allowed herself a grim smile. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best, Commander. We learned long ago not to rely on any single approach, no matter how elegant. Hours passed as the Aegis held its position, its hull straining against forces it was never designed to withstand. Systems failed and backups engaged automatically. Power grids burned out only to have tertiary and quaternary networks take their place. The ship groaned and shuddered, but it did not break. When the phenomenon finally passed, the Aegis had suffered massive damage. Half its systems were running on emergency power, and its once gleaming hull was scored and pitted. But the colony was safe, protected by humanity's over-engineered masterpiece. "Damage report," Santos called out, her voice hoarse from hours of issuing commands. "Multiple hull breaches, contained by emergency force fields," Chen reported. 60% of primary systems offline, running on backups. But the structural integrity field held. "We're still in one piece, Captain." The Vorkath ships returned, their own systems recovered from the disturbance. The commander's voice held something new when he spoke, respect, tinged with uncertainty. "Your vessel's design philosophy. We dismissed it as primitive, inefficient, but today we saw its true purpose. You built not for perfection, but for survival at any cost." "That's the human way, Commander," Santos replied. "We learned early that space doesn't care about elegant solutions or perfect systems. It only cares about what survives. And sometimes survival means having a fourth backup for when the third one fails." As repair crews began their work, Santos reflected on how this incident would change relations between their species. The Vorkath had seen firsthand why humanity built their ships the way they did. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution wasn't the best one. Sometimes you just needed enough backup systems and redundant power grids to brute force your way through whatever the universe threw at you. Bridge of Understanding. The weeks following the space-time disturbance brought unprecedented cooperation between humans and Vorkath. The Aegis repair crews worked alongside Vorkath engineers, each species learning from the other's approach to technology. Captain Santos found herself in her ready room, reviewing repair reports when her comm system chimed. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen's voice carried an unusual edge of excitement. "The Vorkath commander is requesting permission to come aboard. They say they've discovered something in their analysis of the phenomenon that we need to see." The Vorkath commander, whom Santos had come to know as Zextal, arrived with a small team of their species scientists. Their crystalline environment suits caught the light as they entered the conference room, a necessity due to their methane-based biology. "Captain Santos," Zextal's translated voice held urgency. "Our analysis of the space-time disturbance has revealed something troubling. We believe it was not a natural phenomenon." Santos leaned forward. "Artificial. Created by whom?" The Vorkath scientists projected a holographic display showing complex quantum measurements. "We detected patterns in the distortion field," one scientist explained. "Signatures that could only come from deliberate manipulation of spacetime. Someone or something is testing weapons capable of unraveling reality itself." "The purifiers?" Santos asked, though she already suspected the answer was more complicated. Zextal's crystalline suit shifted colors, indicating distress in their species. "No. The technology is beyond even their capabilities. We believe." They hesitated. "We believe it may be the work of the Ancient Ones." The room fell silent. Even humanity, new to the galactic stage, had heard whispers of the Ancient Ones, a civilization that had supposedly ascended beyond physical form eons ago, leaving behind only mysteries and warnings. "We thought they were myths," another Vorkath scientist added. "Stories to frighten young ones. But these readings match patterns found in ruins across 1,000 worlds. They're testing the fabric of space-time, perhaps preparing to return." Santos absorbed this information, her tactical mind already analyzing implications. "Why show us this? Surely the Vorkath High Command would prefer to handle this internally." Zextal's suit rippled with patterns that the translation software interpreted as wry amusement. 2 weeks ago, I would have agreed. But we witnessed something extraordinary during the disturbance. Your ship, your primitive approach to engineering, did something our most advanced vessels could not. You created stability in chaos. Through brute force and redundancy, Santos noted. Exactly. The Vorkath scientists' enthusiasm transcended species barriers. We've always pursued elegance, perfect solutions, but facing threats beyond comprehension, perhaps elegance is a liability. Your species' approach, Preparing for the unknown by building in layers of solutions. It might be exactly what's needed. Chief Engineer Patel, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. You're suggesting an alliance, not just diplomatic, but technological. More than that, Zextal replied. We propose a joint project. A new class of ships combining Vorkath quantum manipulation with human redundancy and adaptability. Vessels capable of facing threats beyond our current understanding. Santos studied the Vorkath commander's environment suit, reading the subtle color shifts that indicated sincerity. Your people would accept this, working with a primitive species. The Purifier's attack and this space-time disturbance have shifted many perspectives, Sextal answered. Some still resist, but more see the wisdom in your approach. You build ships like fortresses because you expect the unexpected. We build ships like surgical instruments, precise but fragile. Perhaps the truth lies between our approaches. The implications were staggering. Human engineering philosophy combined with Vorkath quantum manipulation could revolutionize space travel. But more importantly, it represented something unprecedented. Two species acknowledging that their different approaches to survival could complement rather than compete. There's something else, Zextal added, their suit shifting to deeper hues. Our long-range sensors have detected more space-time anomalies forming at the galaxy's edge. Whatever the Ancient Ones are planning, we don't have much time. We need to combine our strengths now. Santos stood, a decision made. Then let's not waste time. I'll contact Earth Command immediately. In the meantime, I'd like your engineers to work with ours on incorporating some of your quantum stabilization technology into our repair efforts. Let's start small and prove this can work. As the meeting concluded, Santos watched the Vorkath delegation depart, their crystalline suits catching the light. Humanity had reached the stars expecting to find wonders and horrors. Instead, they found that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination, but their ability to adapt, to take the best of what they encountered and incorporate it into their own approach to survival. The Ancient Ones might be testing the boundaries of reality, but they would soon discover that reality had learned to push back, and it would do so with human redundancy and Vorkath precision, working in perfect harmony. 6 months after the space-time disturbance, the HSS Aegis barely resembled its original form. Vorkath quantum manipulation technology merged seamlessly with human engineering, creating something entirely new. The ship's hull now rippled with crystalline patterns that somehow made it look both more elegant and more formidable. Captain Santos stood on the bridge, watching as her crew worked alongside Vorkath specialists. The once stark military efficiency had evolved into something more fluid, yet no less effective. Humanity's practice of redundancy had influenced Vorkath designs, while their quantum expertise had revolutionized human technology. Multiple anomalies detected, Lieutenant Commander Jackson announced. Massive distortions forming at coordinates 227 Mark 043. Energy signatures match previous incidents, but orders of magnitude stronger. The tactical display showed a horrifying sight. Space itself was unraveling in a spiral pattern, spreading outward from a central point. This was no test. It was the beginning of something much worse. The Ancient Ones are making their move. Zextal's voice came through clear on the new quantum-enhanced communications. Our long-range sensors detect similar phenomena appearing across the galaxy. They're trying to reshape reality itself. Santos nodded grimly. Then it's time to see if our collaboration paid off. All hands. Battle stations. Bring all systems online, both human and Vorkath. The Aegis's new hybrid systems hummed to life. Quantum-enhanced armor plates shifted and realigned, creating layers of both physical and reality-stabilizing protection. Power flowed through conventional and quantum circuits, each backing up the other. Multiple contacts emerging from the anomalies, Jackson reported. Configuration unknown. They're not fully in our reality. The Ancient One's vessels defied description. Geometric shapes that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. They radiated power that made the Purifier's weapons look like children's toys. "They're broadcasting," Chen announced. "Converting signal." A voice filled the bridge, not through speakers, but seemingly directly in everyone's mind. "Realitys FL8ED. We or E2RN. To impel mementi coercituan. Resistance is irrelevant." Santos exchanged glances with Zextal, who stood beside her in their crystalline environment suit. Both understood what was at stake, not just their own species, but the very nature of existence as they knew it. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Santos ordered. The combined human Vorkath fleet moved as one, their upgraded vessels representing the best of both civilizations. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Ancient Ones wielded powers that could erase matter from existence, but they faced something they hadn't expected: adaptation. Every time they found a way through human redundancy, they met Vorkath precision. When they overcame Vorkath quantum manipulation, they crashed against human backup systems. Hull integrity at 60%. Chen reported as another reality-shearing blast struck the Aegis. Quantum stabilization fields holding. Backup systems engaging automatically. The Ancient Ones' attacks grew more desperate as their initial confidence gave way to confusion. Their powers were absolute, yet somehow these lesser beings refused to be erased from existence. "They don't understand," Zextal observed, their suit pulsing with what Santos had learned was excitement. "They seek perfection, but perfection is fragile. Our combined approach, your redundancy and our precision, it's something they never considered possible." Santos allowed herself a smile as she watched another Ancient One vessel fall to their combined tactics. "That's the thing about ascending beyond physical form," she replied. "You forget the value of getting your hands dirty." The Aegis's quantum-enhanced sensors detected a change in the Ancient One's formation. Their impossible geometries seemed less certain, their reality-shearing weapons less effective. They were learning something that humanity had known since its first steps into space. The universe doesn't care about your technological superiority. It only cares about what survives. "They're retreating," Jackson announced with disbelief. "The anomalies are closing." The Ancient One's final transmission echoed through their minds. "This OTC of many ways, unprioritized. Perhaps reality way is not as FLA as we believe it. We will obese or vi longer." As the impossible ships vanished and space-time began to heal itself, Santos turned to Zextal. "They'll be back," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," the Vorkath commander agreed. "But next time, we'll be better prepared. Our species have only begun to explore what we can achieve together." Santos looked around her bridge, at humans and Vorkath working side by side, at displays showing both quantum calculations and good old-fashioned backup systems. The Aegis had evolved from a human warship into something more, a symbol of how different approaches to survival could combine to create something stronger than the sum of its parts. "Send word to Earth Command and the Vorkath High Council," she ordered. "The Ancient One's return isn't a matter of if, but when. We need more ships like the Aegis, not just warships, but exploration vessels, scientific ships, colony ships, all of them combining our different approaches." "They'll resist," Zextal noted. "Both our peoples have their traditionalists." "They'll adapt," Santos replied with confidence. "That's what survival is all about. We learned that lesson long ago, watching our first ships fall to space's harsh realities. The Vorkath learned it watching their perfect systems fail against the unexpected. And today, the Ancient Ones learned that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't technological superiority. It's the willingness to adapt, to combine different approaches, to survive no matter what." As the Aegis set course for home, its hybrid systems humming in perfect harmony, Santos reflected on how far both species had come. They had faced gods and survived, not through overwhelming power or technological supremacy, but through the simple philosophy that had guided humanity since its first steps into space. Prepare for the worst, adapt to survive, and always have a backup plan. The stars seemed brighter somehow, as if reality itself approved of this new partnership between species. The universe might be harsh and unforgiving, but together they were ready for whatever it might throw at them next. The end.